Are there two sets of rules in America? Welcome back to Common Grounds Conversations. I'm your host, Todd. A weekly podcast and YouTube presentation on politics. I hit straight down the middle. I don't pick sides. I tell you how I see it and possible solutions. I have that conversation everyone is afraid to have. So join me if you would. Let's get started. Why does it feel like Americans are living under two completely different standards of justice, depending on who's involved politically? I mean, really, we have the right's way of doing things, and we have the left's way of doing things. And the question has exploded since the riots of 2020 and the events of January 6th. On one side, the media ignored months of destruction across America and cities, and the other side says January 6th was an attack on democracy itself. But here's the big question. Have Americans stopped believing in the system that the system applies equally? Well, maybe. Again, welcome back, everybody. Today we're stepping directly into one of the most decisive conversations in America right now. Do we truly, or do we actually have equal standards anymore? And I want everyone to take a second before I go any further and actually think about that question. I don't care if you're from the right or the left, what party you're on. I don't care how you think. I just want you to think about this question. Do we actually have equal standards anymore? I don't care what your religious background is. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care about any of that stuff. Think about that question. And before anyone instantly gets defensive, this episode is not about pretending violence is okay when your side does it. Violence is violence. Destruction is destruction. Political intimidation is wrong no matter who is doing it. People, stop. You need to think about what you are doing. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what religion you are. None of us is getting off of this earth alive. So we need to start having those conversations. We need to find out what the real problem is. But Americans are noticing something. The outrage, media coverage, political reactions, even enforcement often seems widely different depending on who's involved. So if your party's involved, or if the other party's involved, or whomever's involved, depending on what party you notice, you see it. Why? Because one, no one is talking. We're not talking. We're not having the conversations. We don't care. Whoever it is, we don't care. We tune them out. And that perception alone is dangerous for this country. So let's first start off with the riots of 2020. Let's start with 2020. After the death of George Floyd, America saw massive protests across the country. Many were peaceful. Millions of Americans protested without violence. But we also saw riots, businesses being burned, police stations attacked, cities overwhelmed, people injured and killed, billions of property being damaged. Now here's where the public trust started breaking down for many Americans. A lot of people felt the media minimized the violence by constantly repeating phrases like mostly peaceful protests, even while buildings were being burned in the background. How can you say that? How can the American people trust the media when you're saying that and you have bombs and flames and people fighting and buildings being burned in the background, mostly peaceful protests? Are you kidding me? Even the politicians were saying the same thing, mostly peaceful protest. They're saying it now. It kills me when I hear that. And they show it in the background, and it's not mostly peaceful. Those images stuck in people's minds. Some Americans believed leaders were hesitant to strongly condemn the destruction because they agreed with the broader movement behind the protest. Okay, so they believed with it, but they should have still condemned it. It wasn't there. It was wrong. Whether that's fair or not, the perception matters, because trust in institutions depends on people believing standards are consistent. All right, so I didn't want to leave out this other one, January 6th. Now let's talk about that. Supporters of Donald Trump gathered in Washington during certification of the 2020 election results. Some protesters stayed peacefully, others stormed the Capitol. Police were assaulted, windows smashed, Congress evacuated. For millions of Americans, this crossed completely different lines because it involved Capitol during the transfer of potential presidential powers. And since then, January 6th has become one of the biggest political flashpoints in modern American history. But the same thing on this, none of the politicians on the right condemned it. But here's where the conservatives started asking questions. Why did January 6th receive nonstop national attention, investigation, arrest, hearings, and historical language, while months of riots in American cities, often felt political softness and excused? So basically, they weren't both being politicalized the same. In other words, the media left one out and overemphasized the other. Again, whether you agree or disagree with that question, it's a real question millions of Americans have. Trust in our media, is dwindling or it's gone. The media problem. This is where media trust completely fractures. Conservatives often believe that the left-wing violence gets explained away, while right-wing violence gets amplified nationally. Makes sense. Liberals often believe January 6th represented something uniquely dangerous because it involved stopping election certification, and both sides across accused the other of hypocrisy. The problem is, once Americans believe justice depends on political alignment, the system itself starts losing legitimacy. Politicians divide us into groups so they can control us better, like training mice. We do what they say. No one is willing to stand up and say enough is enough. Where are the reporters from yesteryear? And honesty. That may be one of the biggest threats facing this country right now. Not division, but loss of trust. So here's the bigger issue. Here's the truth nobody likes hearing. Americans have become tribal. Too many people have decided whether something is wrong based on who did it instead of what was done. They either like the person or they don't like the person. They don't care about what the message is. So they either turn the person off before they even hear the message. As soon as that person starts to speak, they immediately say negative things about it. If protesters destroy property or attack police, it's wrong. If people storm the Capitol and assault officers, it's wrong. If politicians inflame anger irresponsibly, that should matter regardless of party. Consistency matters because without equal standards, all you're left with is political terms protecting themselves. And history shows that never ends well. So in closing, at the end of the day, Americans don't all need to agree politically. We don't. You can have your own political views, your own religious views, whatever, your own culture. It's great. But if we stop believing rules apply equally, if we stop believing truth matters more than team loyalty, then division only gets worse from here. And maybe that's the real conversation Americans need to start having. Not just which side is worse, but can this country survive if nobody trusts the system anymore? Thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode, share with the fellow podcasters, follow me, and let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think American has two sets of rules? Or are people comparing situations that really were different? I'll see you on the next episode. Enjoy your day.